Good day. It's October 26th, 2018, and as you can see, I've got my presidential hat of the unincorporated United States of America, and I'm making this video the old way like I did last year. We'll see how it comes out. Trying to get around the virus that's been implanted into my computer somehow. The reason I'm making the video is because I heard something on the radio last night from strangeness investigator and reporter. She has done UFO reporting, and I've communicated her with emails back and forth sometimes, but I think it's been over a year. I kind of gave up on her. She knows, she's smart enough not to get in too deep on the really nitty-gritty of what's going on behind the scene. And this is probably due to decades ago there was some insinuations that you could be held accountable even after you die for maintaining the cover-up of the UFO phenomena. So it's a little bit like the Catholic Church covering up the pedophilia going on that some of the more recent people just in the last few months of the Catholic Church have kind of signed this document that's not in my name, meaning they've separated themselves from the Pope. So it's a little bit like that, you know, if you maintain a cover-up, in a sense, you are supporting it. You can take that however you want to, the importance on that, but anyway, it's kind of parallels the UFO thing. So that's why I'm not giving her a name, because she may not, you know, she didn't okay this. Anyway, the important thing is, right towards the end of this program, she said that she had interviewed this was back in about 1983, interviewed the author of the 12th Planet, Stitchin, and this is while she was in New York City. And of course, you know, back in '83 he wasn't as popular, so he didn't have as much books out there, so he hadn't made as much money as he did more recently with all his books. But so that this is significant too. Anyways, she was granted this interview and was given an appointment over the phone to come see her secretary on such and such day, which she did. And she took the cab down there, and it turned out to be Rockefeller Center. And she went up in one of the building there, and you know, it's quite expensive. I think she said, you know, it looked like the place is rented for 35. My mind doesn't want to say this. She said 35,000 a month or something. You know, because I can't believe that, but maybe it was 3,500. So don't quote me. So anyway, the point is that it was very, very ritzy, you know. So Stitchin had to have been very well connected. So during the interview, she says that she asked him if he had ever worked for or was currently working for the government. And she says there was like a 45-second pause where he just looked at her and she just looked back, and she knew better than not to say anything. So finally he said something to the effect that I can't tell you whether I did or do, and you shouldn't be asking a question like that, because you should know better that I can't tell you. So kind of she took that as a yes. And that was basically what she said. Well, Stitchin is this fellow that's really become popular in the, not only in the UFO community, about transcribing old Sumerian texts that talk about a wandering planet, that Nibiru, where the Anunnaki supposedly came from. But anyway, he's saying that this comes through the solar system. And you know, I know that things happen in the solar system periodically, just like they do with the sun. But the point is that some extremists that support him say that, oh, it's going to destroy the planet or something. Well, it's ridiculous. But some of the not-so ones just say that it's going to cause an event on the Earth. And anyway, he's gotten a lot of support through the publishing houses. And so right there, that I've always suspected, you know, anybody that does real well with the controlled publishing houses and the controlled media has to be somewhere connected with them. So this didn't come as a shock to me, but it did, sort of, because what it means that the system has been supporting this theory. And so, you know, I thought about this for an hour, and then I was thinking about it in the morning when I woke up. You see, what it's doing is it's taking everybody's focus off into this Planet X out there, and what's actually just opposite, in the opposite direction, the sun. And I've always maintained that the sun has more to do with what's going on the Earth here than any rogue planet. Same with the geo-engineering. The people who want to carbon tax and tax the suckers and the slaves, the peons, even more with the carbon tax, are pushing this global warming. And incidentally, this show last night also had a global warming expert on from a big university in the Midwest, who was talking about all this, about the global warming. And of course, there's a division about geoengineering causing more, which I believe, if mankind's changing the weather, it's the mankind that are using the chemtrails and the geoengineering. That's what I say. And I'm not really saying that the weather isn't more unstable, but I'm just saying it's not getting warmer. And this guy was claiming, well, parts of Alaska are already showing that the sea level's rising in Florida and all these other places. Well, that's a bunch of horse pooey. Parts of Alaska have always been settling because of earthquakes. You'll have, you know, miles and miles and miles and maybe hundreds of miles of shoreline that sink because of settling. And the same could be said for the whole, or a good part of the state of Florida. It could settle just as much as it can rise. And that would explain why some parts of the world are noticing a sea rise and other parts aren't. If the sea was rising because of the sun melting, or because of the man-made automobiles and stuff melting the polar caps, the sea would be rising all over the world. You can't have it rising in one spot. So it's parts that are settling. You know, even islands can settle. And the more earthquakes you have, which you can almost say we are having, cause great areas to settle. We're smaller areas. And also, why are the polar caps on the moon, Mars, and other planets heating up too? Is it the automobiles that are causing the polar caps on Mars to melt? No, it's the sun. So the sun dictates more about our climate than even man with his geoengineering, his chemtrails. But all the elite want a carbon tax so they can tax people more, because the elite needs more money, or at least more power, because they just don't have enough. You know, this poor elite, they just need more. They just need more. So, you know, feel sorry for them. You know, go ahead and push global warming, and we need carbon taxes. But I do say that we need to clean up the planet, and if more people listen to me, we would have more cleaning up going than what even the global warming people say, because they want to mainly get this money together and appoint more committees and, you know, talk about this and talk about that, and they just want, you know, it's like rearranging the chairs on the deck chairs on the Titanic. You know, this will keep us from sinking. You know, if we put the chairs here and that's kind of like what the elite want to do. If I had it my way, I'd have the U.S. military, instead of making more aircraft carriers and battleships and destroyers, I'd have them reconfiguring ships to clean up the oceans, or even building new ships to clean up their oceans. There's technology out there, just as there was technology to clean up the oil spills in the Gulf of Mexico. But no, they had to put more chemicals in the water, which was actually more damaging to the environment and the Gulf and the world's ocean currents, because the oil, it took the oil and settled it and put it down on the bottom of the seabed, which would kill even more, and where they could have collected a lot of the oil, or there was kind of electronic radionics that could be used. You could even use bacteria and mushrooms. You know, you could collect the oil and make big compost piles and put mushrooms in it. There's all sorts of ways to clean up the seas from oil spills, other than sticking, was it Corexit or something like that, all over the place. But anyway, I'm kind of off the point. There's environmental changes, but there's a positive way to do it and a negative way to do it. And let's leave it at that. So anyway, the sun, getting back to the sun changes. Mankind actually, as Art Bell experimented with and realizes the dangers of group thinking, you know, mass consciousness. He did it, you know, that caused rain to happen in areas, but sometimes, you know, you get too much rain, and that's why Art Bell refrained from ever doing any more consciousness experiments over the radio. Because if you don't do them right, you can have problems. You can ask, and you get a lot more than what you ask for. So, but the Luciferians, you know, by blood sacrifice, and that's basically what the later day Mayans did with their blood sacrifices, because they got degenerated into, but they knew mankind could affect the sun and affect the earth and affect things by mass consciousness, prayers and stuff like that. But there again, there's a positive way of doing that and a negative way of doing it. So unless you really know what you're doing, you should stay away from stuff like that. But basically what I'm saying is that rather than looking out there for 12th planet causing a change, we should be looking the other direction. And of course, people that say that, they don't get any media coverage. Any people that really give what's behind the UFO phenomena, they don't get any media coverage. Yeah, I'm a perfect example of it. But you still tell spiritual stories and stories about just individual sightings and stuff like that. It's just like telling ghost stories. It doesn't really amount to much. It doesn't really get to the heart of it. It doesn't really cause any changes. That's why the little stuff can be talked about. So, I hope I made some sense there and made an important point about what's really going on this planet. Thank you.